When I moved from North Carolina to Denver in 2017, I did what a lot of people do, is I sold a bunch of stuff, furniture and tools and vehicles and just, whatever wasn't the most important thing to bring, because it was quite a distance and it was, a lot of money to move. So I sold off a bunch of stuff, and by far the thing that I regret selling, even though it wasn't practical to move it in any way, or even really possible necessarily, was my pickup truck. I owned a 1970 Dodge D100, which is the truck that eventually became the Dodge Ram that they sell today. And it was by far the most fun vehicle I had ever had to drive. It was kind of ridiculous, especially in the 2010 range when I got it. But I bought it for $650 and I drove it home. And it was my daily driver for probably a year or so. And it was a step side with a wooden bed and a column shift, known as a 3 on the tree for 3-speed on the column. And yeah, it was just a blast to drive. It had no power or anything. I don't think the heat worked. There was definitely no functional AC. I used to joke that the AC was the holes in the floor pans. And it did have a lot of rust. It was a farm truck that had been a stump puller back in its day, so it had lots of dings and dents. It had one pretty clear sign of a tree falling on it from the hood of the cab all the way to the tailgate. Crank windows, and it was just a lot of fun to drive for whatever reason. It's probably my favorite vehicle that I've owned over the years. And I've never been super mechanically inclined, so when it did finally give out on me in a variety of different ways, I wasn't particularly capable of fixing any of them. I did do a fair amount of work on it over the time that I owned it, just simple stuff like changing the oil and spark plugs and hoses and things like that. So yeah, I just and I regret not figuring out a way to bring it with me, but also it was just a fun vehicle to own for the time that I had it. And it's just kind of practical to have a pickup truck in a lot of cases, especially if you want to move stuff around in and out of storage or whatever. But yeah, the 1970 Dodge D100, that was one of my favorite vehicles that I've owned, and still miss it, still think about it. I've always loved classic cars and trucks and motorcycles, and I'm still considering picking up another classic at some point when I'm better, and driving it around. Those things they're almost a workout in and of themselves to get from one point to another. I used to tell people that owning a classic truck was a lot like a relationship. I would wake up in the mornings and I would try to coax it out of bed by whispering sweet nothings into its ear. It's just its bed was the garage. And owning a classic truck that wasn't in, collector condition also made me kind of appreciate all the little things, like in a, daily commute, just driving to the store and back without having to fiddle the wires in the starter, or getting stuck in a parking lot for an extra hour was hey, it's been a good day. I didn't have any real problems. Truck made it out, truck made it home. We did a good one. So yeah, it's definitely something I miss, and maybe something I'll pick up again in the future in a different form, maybe something that's easier to get parts for. Dodges were pretty low production numbers back then. So yeah, that's about it.